Hi, I'm Heather. Welcome back to my channel. This is Red Ibis Coach because I am a coach. Today we are continuing on talking about the PERMA model and how you can apply it to your social media practices and habits. So we talked about positive emotions, we went through engagement. Yesterday we talked about relationships and how to do a social media audit so that you can do things and consume things on social media that actually contribute to your relationships in a positive way. And we're continuing on talking about relationships today in relation to social media. And I can take advantage of this opportunity to talk very quickly about coaches and why paying a coach is a lot different than paying a different type of service worker. So to put it as simply as possible and to tell you a little bit of the differences, coaching is different than therapy. Another very important service that you can pay for. Coaching is different than therapy because therapy often focuses on and interrogates not only your past, but your subconscious and unconscious and your trauma, and how all of these inform your current behaviors and your current experiences, and how you need to or choose to work on those things to heal some of your past and to integrate how you experience the past versus how you experience the present. Coaching is different because it's focused on the present with an eye toward the future. So usually you have something that's going on with you in the present that feels stuck or blocked or slower than you would like it even. It doesn't necessarily surface as a strict problem. It can for sure. It doesn't necessarily have to. So why I say that there's flexibility there is because you can choose to work with a coach and a therapist for that matter for any reason. If you are human, you're a problem solver, and you look for the best, most optimal ways to exist. And therapy can help you with that for specific purposes. Coaching is also available for those types of purposes. A therapeutic relationship or a coaching relationship is a reciprocal relationship. So it's unique in that way in terms of services. So coaching, why is it reciprocal? Well, because there is real trust established between the coach and the client. That's number one. Number two, the relationship is a container for everything that the client is working on. So it's a safe place to bounce ideas that won't be stolen by somebody, to talk about and work through problems out loud, to have a friendly and knowledgeable and professional person to really go through step by step how you could achieve your goals, and just someone who's literally walking beside you on that journey, not holding your hand, not telling you and giving you all the answers, because the idea of coaching is actually to increase your own self-trust and to really dig deep down into your own reserves, your own gifts, and your own strengths so that you can actually use your own powers of whatever your strengths are to make real changes in your life. The reason that I am a uniquely positioned coach is not just because I didn't go through like a standard coaching program. It's because I have a master's in psychology, and that applied psychology lens is specifically focused on positive psychology and coaching psychology. So what that means is that the tools and resources that I would share with you are empirically validated. There has been research done on these tools, research done on these assessments, and I help you translate how that research can be applied in your life. So that's a little bit about coaching and how that relationship is very specific and how it is a completely valid way to approach problem solving or also just accelerating your own personal growth. Sure, you can do it on your own. You can always do it on your own. But when you do it with someone who is really being paid to focus their time and attention and energy into helping you get there faster, that can make a big difference for people. So on to my tips for how to leverage social media in terms of how it can improve your relationships. One more audit that you should do, especially if you are partnered. And you might not want to hear this, but we got to talk about it. If you're in a monogamous relationship, you shouldn't have a bunch of thirst traps that you're following. Those are not relationships. First of all, those people don't want to date you and they don't know you. Okay? If you're following a bunch of thirst trap accounts, ask yourself why. If you feel entitled to follow them, what purpose does that serve you? How does that improve your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with others? And then directly, I would ask you, does it serve you? Does it serve your relationship with yourself? Does it serve your relationship with your partner? Does it serve your relationship with others? And then a broader question, does objectifying people improve your relationships? Only you can answer these questions. Beyond that, moving beyond that, there is a lot of relationship advice on the internet, and it's hard to discern what would be helpful and what would not be helpful. Of course, a great place to start is this person a licensed therapist? Do they have an advanced degree? Have they been working with people or couples for a long time? Have they been helping facilitate conflict negotiations or ways of resolving conflict as a way of their career, their profession? Have they studied it in some way? You're looking for some level of expertise because any beautiful woman, any handsome man can start a social media account and just start telling you what they think about things. And that whatever they're telling you might work for them. It might even work for their friends. But that kind of anecdotal evidence isn't necessarily enough. You want somebody who is able to see or read some amount of empirical evidence to help inform their decisions. However, there is something to be said about the entertainment value of relationship advice, as long as it's not harming you or your relationships, as long as you're not making impulsive decisions based on the advice that you're receiving. So we've got looking at people's credentials, not using them as a strict criteria, but information to tell you whether or not this person has enough experience or some knowledge base that helps, give them a foundation for the place that they're coming from when they're giving you advice. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Okay, what else is important to know about tips for relationships? Here's something that goes and falls back on how you feel about yourself and your relationship with yourself. Starting to notice the emotions that you feel when you're engaging with social media content that talks about relationships in any way, whether it's talking about friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, when you hear that sort of content, how does it make you feel about the relationships that you have? Does it make you feel anxious? Does it make you feel nervous? Does it make you feel warm and cozy? These feelings are a response to the information that you're taking in that can give you some information about yourself. How you're responding to the input is telling you something about what's going on for you internally and could be kind of a temperature check for what's actually happening in your relationships. So that is another important thing. When you come across some social media talking about relationships, how do you feel? I believe that those are the main tips. I think what people underestimate is what's going on for them in terms of their emotions. And there is something to be said, I will kind of emphasize this, that sometimes you are acting out of alignment with your values. So what that can look like is if you if your value is to treat people fairly, to treat people fairly in relationships, but you tend to have double standards about what someone else does versus what you do. So a simple way to think of this is rules for thee, but not for me. And then you come across some relationship content of some kind, even if it's just a depiction of a relationship or somebody talking about their relationship, and you feel some discomfort, some cognitive dissonance perhaps is popping up, that's a sign that you might not be living or behaving in alignment with your values. And that's something else that you can investigate and see what you want to do about it. If you get angry more than you would like, if you fly off the handle, so to speak, more than you would like, and that makes you upset with your behavior, and you feel like you would like to get a control on your behavior, these are things that, sure, a coach can help with, but a therapist may be better suited to that kind of stuff. I will always advocate for therapy and finding a therapist that feels right for the kind of things you want to work on. And whether it's a coach or a therapist, I would strongly encourage you to not necessarily settle for someone who's just telling you what to do, just telling you what you should do. That's really not what we're trained to do. I can tell you because I've spoken to other therapists, but also because of the way that I was trained to be a coach. Coaching is really about helping people come to their own decisions because agency and self-sufficiency is extremely important in the coaching process. We are trying to get you to be more capable and trust yourself more. So if you're constantly leaning on your coach to give you the answers and to tell you exactly what to do, that doesn't build your self-trust. That doesn't build your confidence and your confidence in your own decision-making skills. That's why I think it's important to really continue to build this muscle of your own discernment, and the way that you respond to social media and the social media you consume is really a gauge for that. It's really like a temperature check, or even like, a check engine light for that. So those are some of my other thoughts about relationships and how they can be enhanced by social media. Of course, if you find really good advice, see how you can apply it. See if it works for you. And if you're not familiar or comfortable or used to seeking out relationship advice online, give it a try. See how you feel about it. It might not necessarily work for you. And in that case, you're better off going to other resources, websites, books, things like that. So anyway, I hope you got something of value out of this. If you did, I'd love for you to subscribe, give it a like, even share it. Share my like normal everyday person video with no bells and whistles, because I think positive psychology is not about glamour, it's about pragmatism. And I'm trying to get that message out because I think it is important and lots of people can get value from it. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.